The envelope felt heavier than it should have. Just paper and dust, really. But when I held it in my hands that Tuesday morning, staring at my husband's handwriting, across the front my name, Eleanor, in his careful script, I knew my entire world was about to crack open. I had no idea that inside this forgotten thing was more money than I'd ever imagined, and proof that the two sons I'd raised had already decided to throw me away. Hello, my name is Eleanor Hartwell. I'm 72 years old, and I live in Seattle, Washington. This is the story of what happened when my husband died, and my children tried to erase me. It's the story of what I did about it. I need to start at the beginning. I met David Hartwell when I was 23. I was working as a secretary at a construction office in Portland. He came in one morning with blueprints under his arm and sawdust still on his boots. He was 25, ambitious and kind. We married within a year. I thought we'd have a small, ordinary life. Instead, we had two sons, Marcus and Owen, and David's small carpentry business grew into something neither of us expected. Hartwell Construction, then Hartwell Properties, then Hartwell Restaurant Group. 30 years of work. David handled the business side, mostly. But I was there too. I kept the books. In the early years, I smoothed over disputes with contractors. I picked out furniture for the first restaurant. I drove to job sites when David was too tired. People called me David's wife. I didn't mind then. I thought we were a team. The boys grew up watching their father build an empire. Marcus, the older one, had David's confidence, but none of his patience. Owen had charm, but something restless underneath. I loved them. I made their lunches. I went to their games. I believed in them. When David got sick, pancreatic cancer, stage 4, everything moved very fast. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. He spent most of that time in bed, working on his laptop, putting things in order. He said, I brought him tea. I sat beside him. I asked if he needed help. No, Ellie, he'd say. I've got it handled. I trusted him. The funeral was tasteful. Marcus cried. Owen gave a speech about legacy. Marcus's wife, Vanessa, wore black Prada and checked her phone during the service. Owen's wife didn't come at all. They were separated by then. Something about rehab. I stood between my sons and tried to hold their hands. They let me, briefly. Then they pulled away to greet investors. 3 weeks later, our family attorney, Sharon Brenner, called everyone to her office downtown. 16th floor. Glass walls. View of Elliott Bay. I sat in a leather chair. That was too big for me. Marcus sat on my right, in a charcoal suit. Owen sat on my left, fidgeting. Vanessa sat beside Marcus, her red nails tapping the armrest. Sharon opened a folder. She looked uncomfortable. The estate of David Hartwell is valued at approximately $30 million, she began, per his last will and testament. The distribution is as follows. She listed assets. Hartwell Construction to Marcus, as CEO. The restaurant portfolio to Owen, as managing director. Investment accounts. Properties, vehicles. Everything divided between my two sons. My name wasn't mentioned. Marcus leaned forward. And mother? Sharon hesitated. She slid a brown envelope across the desk. Old, creased, sealed with tape. My name in David's handwriting. Your father left specific instructions that Mrs. Hartwell should receive this, Sharon said carefully. He said she would understand. Vanessa laughed. Actually laughed. That's it? An envelope? Marcus didn't say anything. He looked at the envelope. Then at me. Then at his shoes. Owen cleared his throat. Dad probably left her some kind of, I don't know, sentimental thing. How generous, Vanessa said. She didn't bother whispering. I reached across the desk. My hand shook slightly. I took the envelope. It was light. I could feel something. Inside papers, maybe. Nothing else. Sharon shifted in her seat. If there are no further questions. We're done here, Marcus said. He stood up. Vanessa followed. Owen mumbled something about needing air. They left me sitting there. Sharon watched them go. Then she looked at me. Eleanor, if you need anything, I'm fine. I said. I wasn't. I drove home alone. The house felt enormous. David had bought it 15 years ago, 4 bedrooms, a view of the Sound, a garden I'd planted myself. It was supposed to be ours. Now it was just mine. And I wasn't sure for how long. Marcus had mentioned something about consolidating assets at the funeral. I hadn't understood then. I sat at the kitchen table. The envelope lay in front of me. David's handwriting. 47 years of marriage. And this was what he'd left me. I almost didn't open it. I almost threw it away. But something made me careful. David had been meticulous about everything. He wouldn't have left me nothing. I peeled back the tape. Inside, there were 3 things. A single sheet of paper, a business card, and a small brass key. The paper was a letter. David's handwriting again, shaky near the end. Ellie, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you everything while I was alive. I didn't want to burden you with choices. But now you need to know the truth. The boys think they've inherited everything. They haven't. What they received is a test. And they're already failing it. The key opens a safety deposit box at First Seattle Bank. Box 447. Inside, you'll find account information and documents. The business card belongs to Robert Miller. He's been helping me prepare for this. Trust him. Everything I built for us. Not for them. They've made their choices. Now you get to make yours. I love you. I always have. You were never just my wife. You were always the one who saw clearly. Finish what I started. I read it 3 times. My hands stopped shaking. The business card was plain. Black text. Robert Miller, attorney at law. A phone number. An address in Belltown. The key was small, brass. Stamped with the bank's logo. I sat there for a long time. Outside, the sun was setting over the water. The house was quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming. I thought about Marcus's face when Sharon handed me the envelope. I thought about Vanessa's laugh. I thought about $30 million. And how my sons hadn't even asked if I'd be okay. I thought about David dying in our bedroom, typing on his laptop, putting things in order. I picked up my phone. I dialed the number on the business card. A man answered. Professional, calm. Miller Law. This is Robert. Hello, I said. My voice sounded steady. My name is Eleanor Hartwell. My husband left me your card. There was a pause. Then, Mrs. Hartwell, I've been expecting your call. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? Yes. 9 o'clock? I'll be there. I hung up. I looked at the envelope again. At the key. At David's letter. The boys thought they'd won. They thought the old woman had been put in her place. Given her little scrap and sent home. They had no idea what was coming. I folded the letter carefully. I put everything back in the envelope. Then I went upstairs, lay down on the bed I'd shared with David for 47 years, and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I would find out what my husband had really left me. Tonight, I was just a 72-year-old widow. With an envelope and a key. But something was already changing. I could feel it. The part of me that had stayed quiet for so long, the part that had smiled and served and stayed in the background, was waking up, and I realized something that would have shocked my younger self. I wasn't sad. I was angry. Robert Miller's office was nothing like Sharon Brenner's glass tower. It was a converted brick building in Belltown, 3rd floor, narrow stairs. The door had his name painted in gold letters that were starting to fade. Inside, it smelled like old paper and coffee. He was younger than I expected. Maybe 55, gray at the temples. He stood when I came in and shook my hand firmly. "Mrs. Hartwell, please, sit." I sat. The chair was worn but comfortable. His desk was covered with files. Behind him, shelves full of law books. A window looked out onto an alley. He didn't waste time. Your husband and I worked together for the last 8 months of his life. He was very thorough, very careful. He wanted to make sure you'd be protected. Protected from what? He opened a folder, pulled out a document, slid it across to me. "From your sons." I looked down. It was a bank statement. First Seattle Bank. My name on the account. The balance made my breath catch. $112 million. I stared at the numbers. I counted the zeros twice. Then I looked up at Robert Miller. "This can't be right." "It's right," he said quietly. "Your husband moved assets gradually over the last 5 years. Foreign accounts, real estate holdings, investment portfolios. He restructured everything through a private trust. You're the sole beneficiary. Your sons don't know it exists." My hands were shaking again. I put them in my lap. "The $30 million they inherited is real," Robert said, "but it's less than a quarter of the total estate. Your husband gave them enough to test them, to see what they'd do with it. And he gave you the rest. Why didn't he tell me?" "He said you'd try to talk him out of it." Robert's expression softened slightly. "He said you'd want to believe in them." He was right. I would have. "There's more," Robert said. He pulled out another folder. Thicker. "David hired a private investigator. He spent 2 years documenting your son's activities. He wanted you to know exactly who they'd become." He opened the folder. I saw photographs, bank records, receipts, text message transcripts. "Marcus has been embezzling from Hartwell Construction for 3 years. So far, roughly $3 million. He's been using it to cover gambling debts. He owes money to a loan shark named Vincent Corso. Dangerous people, Mrs. Hartwell." He showed me copies of checks, casino receipts from Las Vegas, online betting accounts, messages between Marcus and someone named V, demanding payment. I felt cold. "Owen is worse," Robert continued. He didn't sound like he enjoyed this. "He's been using the restaurants to launder money for a drug operation. Cocaine, primarily. He's also a user. He's been in and out of private rehab 3 times in the past 2 years. His wife left him because of it." More photographs. Owen with people I didn't recognize. Blurry surveillance shots outside a restaurant. A lab report showing cocaine in his system. Medical records from a rehab facility in Arizona. My sons. The boys I'd raised. The children I'd loved. "There's one more thing," Robert said. He pulled out a contract. 3 days after your husband's funeral, Marcus and Owen met with an attorney. Not Sharon Brenner. Someone else. They drew up a plan. He handed me the contract. I read it slowly. It was an agreement between my sons. They were planning to have me declared mentally incompetent. They'd already scheduled an evaluation. With a doctor a drive. Stephen Chen. They were going to claim I had dementia. That I was a danger to myself. They were going to put me in a state-funded nursing facility in Tacoma. And they were going to sell the house. Split the proceeds. $800,000 each. I read the last paragraph twice. Upon successful commitment of Eleanor Hartwell and sale of primary residence, parties agree to divide assets equally and sever all financial ties with subject. They'd called me subject. I put the contract down. My hands weren't shaking anymore. When? I asked. Dr. Chen is scheduled to visit you tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock. He'll conduct what they're calling a wellness check. Then he'll sign papers recommending immediate psychiatric commitment. Is he a real doctor? He's licensed, but he's been paid $20,000 to reach a specific conclusion. Robert leaned forward. Mrs. Hartwell, your husband knew this was coming. He didn't know the exact details, but he knew they'd try something. That's why he left everything the way he did. He wanted you to have options. Power. The ability to fight back. I looked at the photographs on his desk. My sons. Marcus in his suit, looking confident. Owen smiling at some restaurant opening. They looked like strangers. What did David want me to do? Robert pulled out one more envelope. Heavy paper. My name on the front. David's handwriting again. He wanted you to read this. Then decide. I took the envelope. I opened it carefully. Inside was a letter. Longer than the first one. Ellie, if you're reading this. You've met Robert. You know about the money. You know what the boys are planning. I'm sorry. I know this hurts. I wanted to believe they'd be different. I wanted to believe I'd raised them better. But I've learned something. In business, people show you who they are through their choices. Marcus chose gambling over integrity. Owen chose drugs over responsibility. And together, they chose money over you. I've left you 3 options. Option 1: walk away. Take the money. Disappear. Start a new life somewhere else. Let them have the businesses. Let them destroy themselves. You owe them nothing. Option 2: fight quietly. Use Robert. Use the evidence. Protect yourself legally. Keep them at a distance. Live your life in peace. Option 3: burn it all down. Show them who you really are. Show them what happens when they underestimate the woman who built this empire alongside me. Take control of the businesses. Expose their crimes. Make them face consequences. Rebuild everything the right way. I won't tell you which to choose. But I will tell you this. I spent 47 years watching you be strong for everyone else. I watched you make yourself smaller so other people could feel bigger. I watched you smile when you wanted to scream. You don't have to do that anymore. Whatever you decide, I'm proud of you. I always have been. All my love. David the First folded the letter. I put it back in the envelope. I sat there for a moment, looking at nothing. Robert waited. This drive. Chen, I said finally. What time did you say? Tomorrow. 2 o'clock. And my sons think it's going to work. Yes. I thought about Marcus at the attorney's office. His expression when I got the envelope. Not concern. Not love. Just calculation. I thought about Owen's mumbled excuse. His hurry to leave. I thought about Vanessa's laugh. I thought about 47 years of being someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's support system. And I thought about David, dying in our bedroom, working on his laptop, not sleeping, not resting, working to protect me. I need to go to the bank. I said. First Seattle, Box 447. I can take you, Robert offered. No, I need to do this myself. He nodded. He wrote down an address. Ask for Patricia in private banking. She's expecting you. She has instructions from your husband. I stood up, took the address, took all the folders. Mrs. Hartwell, Robert said, one more thing. Your husband left instructions about the businesses. There's a holding company structure. You actually own controlling interest in both Hartwell Construction and the restaurant group, 51%, through the trust. Your sons are employees. I stopped at the door. They don't know? Not yet. I left his office, walked down the narrow stairs, out into the Seattle morning. The city looked different, sharper, clearer. I drove to First Seattle Bank. It was a tall building downtown. Modern, glass and steel. I parked in the garage and took the elevator to the third floor. Patricia was maybe 40. Kind eyes. Professional. She led me to a private room. Small, windowless. A table and 2 chairs. She brought the safety deposit box. Set it down carefully. I'll give you privacy, she said. Take your time. Just press the button when you're done. She left. I heard the door click shut. I opened the box. Inside were 3 things. A thick folder of documents. Bank statements, property deeds, business registrations, evidence of everything Robert had told me, everything David had built, everything that was now mine. A USB drive labeled, for Eleanor only. And a small photograph. Old. Faded. David and me on our wedding day. We were so young. I was wearing a simple white dress. He was in a borrowed suit. We were laughing at something. I couldn't remember what. I picked up the photograph. Studied our faces. Tried to remember who those people were. Then I put it aside. Opened the folder. Read through every document. Traced the path David had built. Swiss accounts. Cayman holdings. Real estate in Vancouver. Investment portfolios. Managed through Singapore. He'd hidden a fortune. And he'd made sure only I could access it. I plugged the USB drive into the laptop Patricia had left on the table. Opened the single file. It was a video. David, sitting in our bedroom, the camera shaky, his face thin from the cancer. Hi, Ellie, he said. His voice was weak but steady. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And you know everything. He coughed. Recovered. I need you to understand something. This isn't about revenge. This is about justice. The boys made their choices long before I got sick. I gave them chances. I tried to help them. They chose to lie, to steal, to betray. He leaned closer to the camera. You might think you should forgive them. You might think they're still your babies. But Ellie, they're not babies. They're grown men who decided their mother was disposable. He paused, looked tired. I've given you the tools, the money, the evidence, the legal structure, but the choice is yours. You can walk away, or you can remind them exactly who raised them. He smiled slightly, that same smile I'd loved for 47 years. Either way, I love you. And I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was afraid you'd try to fix them. But some people don't want to be fixed. They want to keep breaking things. The video ended. I sat in that small room for a long time. I thought about tomorrow. Dr. Chen arriving at my door. Marcus and Owen waiting for the call. Vanessa probably already planning what to do with her share of the house. I thought about option 1. Disappearing. Taking the money. Starting over somewhere warm and quiet. I thought about option 2. Protecting myself. Living small. Letting them have their businesses and their lies. I thought about option 3. I closed the laptop. packed everything carefully, pressed the button. Patricia came back. All set? Yes, I said. Thank you. I drove home, went inside, made myself tea, sat at the kitchen table. The house was quiet. Outside, rain started to fall. Typical Seattle afternoon. I pulled out my phone. Called Robert Miller. He answered immediately. Mrs. Hartwell, I've made a decision, I said. Which option? I looked around the kitchen. At the table where I'd served breakfast for decades. At the window where I'd watched my sons grow up. At the life I'd built that they thought they could erase. Option 3, I said. I want to burn it all down. There was a pause. Then, understood. I'll start making arrangements. Robert, one more thing. Tomorrow, when Dr. Chen comes, I want cameras. I want recordings. I want everything documented. I'll handle it. And I want you here. In the house. Hidden. Just in case. Absolutely. I hung up. Finished my tea. Went upstairs to David's office. Sat at his desk. Opened his laptop. The password was my birthday. Inside, I found folders. Files. More evidence. More proof. And I found something else. A document titled Project Legacy. I opened it. Read through pages of plans. Strategies. Structures for rebuilding. Ideas for reform. Programs for accountability. A roadmap for turning the businesses into something ethical. Something good. David had thought of everything. At the bottom, there was a note to me. Ellie, I know you'll choose the hard path. You always do. This is how you fix what I couldn't. I believe in you. I always have. I closed the laptop. Looked around the office. At his books. His files. His life's work. Tomorrow, my sons would try to erase me. They had no idea what was waiting. I wasn't just some old woman they could discard. I wasn't just their mother. I was Eleanor Hartwell. I'd helped build a $30 million empire. I'd kept books and smoothed conflicts and made impossible things work. And now I owned everything. I went to bed early. But I didn't sleep much. I was too busy planning. By morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Dr. Stephen Chen arrived exactly at 2 o'clock. I was ready. I'd spent the morning preparing. Robert had come at dawn with 2 technicians. They installed cameras in the living room, kitchen, and hallway. Tiny things hidden in smoke detectors and picture frames. Voice-activated recorders in my pockets. A panic button disguised as a watch clasp. If anything goes wrong, Robert said, press this. We'll be in the car outside. 3 minutes, maximum. It won't come to that, I said. He looked doubtful, but he left. I made coffee, set out cookies, changed into a comfortable cardigan and slacks, put on my reading glasses. I wanted to look exactly like what they expected, a harmless old woman, confused, vulnerable, easy to manipulate. The doorbell rang at 1:58 p.m. I waited 10 seconds. Then I opened the door. Dr. Chen was mid-40s, average height, wearing a cheap suit, and carrying a leather bag. He smiled professionally. Behind him stood Marcus and Owen, my sons. Marcus wore his CEO face. Confident. Concerned. Owen looked nervous. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom, Marcus said, thanks for agreeing to this. I hadn't agreed to anything. But I smiled. Of course, sweetheart. Come in. They filed into the living room. Dr. Chen took the armchair. Marcus sat on the sofa. Owen stood near the window. I sat across from them. Folded my hands. Waited. Dr. Chen opened his bag. Pulled out a clipboard. Mrs. Hartwell, I'm drive Stephen Chen. Your sons asked me to do a wellness evaluation. Just routine. Nothing to worry about. That's very kind, I said. But I feel fine. I'm sure you do. He clicked his pen. Just a few questions. Can you tell me what day it is? Wednesday, November 16th. And who's the president? I told him. Good. Can you count backwards, from 100 by sevens? I did. Perfectly. He asked more questions. Simple ones. Memory tests. Orientation checks. I answered everything correctly. Watched his face. He looked slightly annoyed. Marcus shifted on the sofa. Doc, maybe you should ask about her judgment. Decision-making. Dr. Chen nodded. Mrs. Hartwell, your sons are concerned about your ability to manage finances. Can you tell me about your current living situation? I live here, in the house my husband bought. He passed away 3 weeks ago. I'm sorry for your loss. And do you have any income? Any support? My husband left me an envelope. I said. I kept my voice mild. Slightly vague. There was a key inside. And a letter. An envelope, drive. Chen repeated. He wrote something down. What did the letter say? I don't remember exactly. Marcus leaned forward. See? She's forgetting things. I looked at him. My oldest son. He'd learned to ride a bike in this driveway. I'd taught him to tie his shoes. To read. To say please and thank you. Now he was trying to have me locked away. Actually, I said, I remember perfectly. I just didn't feel like sharing. The room went quiet. Dr. Chen cleared his throat. Mrs. Hartwell, have you been experiencing confusion, forgetfulness, difficulty with daily tasks? No. Your sons mentioned you've been acting strangely, making unusual decisions, such as? Marcus spoke up. You've been distant, Mom. You haven't returned our calls. You haven't asked about the businesses. It's not like you. Maybe I'm grieving, I said. Or maybe you're not thinking clearly. Marcus said. His voice hardened slightly. Dad just died. You're alone in this big house. You're not getting any younger. We think you need help. What kind of help? Dr. Chen jumped in. There are excellent facilities. Safe places where you'd be monitored. Where you'd have company. Structure. You mean a nursing home. A care community, he corrected. I sat back. Looked at each of them. Dr. Chen with his clipboard. Marcus with his fake concern. Owen still standing by the window. Staring at his shoes. I see, I said. And how much are they paying you, drive, Chen? His smile faltered. Excuse me? To sign papers saying I'm incompetent. How much? Marcus stood up. Mom, that's $20,000. I said. That's the going rate, isn't it? For a doctor willing to lie? Dr. Chen's face went red. Mrs. Hartwell, I don't know what your real name is. Howard Pelletier, I said calmly. You lost your medical license in California for insurance fraud. You moved to Washington. Changed your name. You work for cash now. Signing forms for people who need official lies. The room froze. I reached into my cardigan pocket. Pulled out a folder. Set it on the coffee table. This is your criminal record. Your California Medical Board ruling. And a bank statement showing $20,000 deposited into your account last Friday. From Marcus. Dr. Chen. Howard stared at the folder. He didn't touch it. Marcus's face went white. How did your father hired investigators? I said. He knew what you were planning. He knew everything. I pulled out another folder. Set it down. Marcus. $3 million embezzled from Hartwell Construction over 3 years. Gambling debts. Loans from Vincent Corso. Should I go on? Marcus sat down slowly. He looked like he might be sick. I turned to Owen. He was frozen by the window. Owen. Cocaine addiction. Using the restaurants to launder money. Medical records from 3 rehab stays. Text messages with your dealer. Pictures of you with people. From the Sinaloa cartel. Owen's voice came out hoarse. Mom, don't, I said. The word came out sharp. Hard. Don't call me that. You lost the right when you signed a contract to throw me away. I pulled out the last document. The agreement they'd made. The plan to declare me incompetent. To sell my house. To split the money. I held it up. You called me the subject. I said, not mother. Not even Eleanor. The subject. Like I was a problem to be solved. Marcus found his voice. We were trying to protect you. You were trying to rob me. The house is too big. You don't need all this space. So you decided to take it. Without asking. Without my consent. I stood up. You know what your father left me, Marcus? Everything. The real estate. The foreign accounts. The trust funds. I own controlling interest in Hartwell Construction. I own the restaurants. You both work for me now. Owen made a sound. Almost a gasp. Marcus shook his head. That's not possible. Sharon said Sharon knew what your father wanted her to know. The real will went through different channels. I looked at Howard. You can leave now. And if you ever try to practice medicine again, I'll make sure every news station in Seattle knows your story. Howard grabbed his bag, practically ran for the door. I heard it slam. Just me and my sons now. Marcus was breathing hard, trying to process. You're lying. You don't have proof. I have everything. I gestured to the folders. Bank records. Surveillance photos. Witness statements. Your father documented all of it. And I've given copies to the police. And my attorney. And the IRS. You can't do this, Marcus said. But his voice shook. I already did. I walked to the window. Looked out at the street. Robert's car was parked 3 houses down. Your father gave me 3 options. Walk away. Protect myself. Or fight back. I chose to fight. Owen finally spoke. His voice was small. What do you want? I turned around. Looked at both of them. I want you to leave my house. Mom, please, I want you to return every dollar you stole. Every cent. Marcus stood up. That's impossible. The money's gone, then you'll work until it's paid back. Both of you. You can't make us. I own the companies. I can do whatever I want. I can fire you, prosecute you, destroy you, or I can give you a chance to fix this. The room was silent. You have 24 hours. I said. By tomorrow night, I want full confessions. I want repayment plans. I want Owen in real rehab, not some spa where he can check himself out. I want Marcus to step down as CEO and work his way back up from nothing. And I want that nursing home contract torn up and burned. And if we don't, Marcus's voice was defiant, but I could see fear underneath. Then I release everything. The media, the prosecutors, your wives, your business partners. Everyone will know what you did. What you are. Owen was crying now, quiet tears running down his face. I'm sorry, he whispered. Are you? I asked. Or are you just sorry you got caught? He didn't answer. Marcus grabbed his coat. This isn't over. Yes, it is, I said. It was over the moment you decided I was disposable. Your father knew. He prepared for this. And now you're going to face consequences. Marcus headed for the door. Owen followed. At the threshold, Owen turned back. I didn't want to do it, he said. Marcus said it was the only way. That you'd be happier somewhere safe. That we were helping. Don't lie to me. I said. Not now. You wanted the money. That's all. He looked down, nodded slightly. Then he left. I stood alone in my living room, listening to their cars start, listening to them drive away. My legs felt weak. I sat down, put my head in my hands. The cameras were still recording. Robert would review everything, make sure we had what we needed. My phone buzzed. Text from Robert. You were incredible. Are you okay? I texted back, I'm fine. See you tomorrow. But I wasn't fine. I was shaking. Adrenaline wearing off. The reality hitting me. I'd just threatened my sons. My children. The babies I'd raised. And I'd meant every word. I sat there until the sun went down. Until the living room was dark. Until I could breathe normally again. Then I went upstairs, got into bed, stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, they'd have to decide. Confess and rebuild, or fight and lose everything. I didn't know which they'd choose. Part of me, the mother part. The part that still remembered them. As little boys hoped, they'd choose redemption. But the part of me that had read those documents, that had seen the contract, calling me the subject. That part knew better. They'd fight, and I'd have to finish what David started. I thought about the video he'd left me. His tired face, his weak voice. Some people don't want to be fixed. They want to keep breaking things. He'd been right. My sons were broken, and they'd been breaking things for years. Breaking rules, breaking trust, breaking me, slowly, without me noticing. Until David noticed. Until he gave me the tools to stop them. I closed my eyes, tried to sleep, but I kept seeing Owen's tears. Marcus's defiance. The look on Howard's face. When I'd called him by his real name. I kept hearing David's voice. I believe in you. I always have. And I kept thinking about tomorrow night, when the 24 hours would be up. When I'd find out who my sons really were. When I'd find out if I had the strength to follow through. I finally fell asleep around 3 a.m. When I woke up, I knew I had the strength. I'd always had it. I just hadn't needed to use it before. They didn't call. 24 hours passed. No confession. No repayment plan. Nothing. I knew what that meant. Robert called at 8:47 p.m. Mrs. Hartwell, we just intercepted communications. Your sons are meeting with Vincent Corso tonight, the loan shark. They're trying to get money to fight you. Where? Marcus's office. Hartwell Construction Headquarters. 10 o'clock. I'm coming. Eleanor, these are dangerous people. I'm coming. I repeated. And bring the police. I hung up, got dressed. Black slacks, dark coat, comfortable shoes. I wasn't hiding anymore. Robert picked me up at 9:30. Detective Thomas Martinez was with him, mid-40s, sharp eyes. He'd been working on the embezzlement case since Robert handed over David's files. Mrs. Hartwell, he said, we need you to stay in the car. Let us handle this. No, ma'am, those are my sons. My company. I'm going in. He looked at Robert. Robert shrugged. She's the majority owner. Legally, it's her building. Detective Martinez sighed. Fine, but you stay behind me. And if things go bad, you run. Understood? Understood. We drove downtown. The Hartwell Construction building was 12 stories. Glass and steel. David's pride. We parked in the garage. 3 police cars waited in the shadows. Officers in plain clothes. Backup. We took the elevator to the executive floor. 10th level. The doors opened onto dark hallways. Only one office lit at the end. Marcus's office. I could hear voices. Angry. Overlapping. Detective Martinez held up his hand. We stopped. He crept forward. I followed. Through the glass door, I could see them. Marcus behind his desk, Owen standing to the side, and 3 men I didn't recognize. One of them was big. Scarred face. Expensive suit. Vincent Corso. Marcus was yelling, "I'm telling you, the old woman has nothing. It's a bluff." Vincent's voice was calm, cold. "Your father's will says otherwise. My sources confirmed it. You owe me $4 million, Marcus. I don't care about your family drama. I want my money. We'll get it how? Your accounts are frozen. Your mother owns everything. You're broke." Owen spoke up, his voice shaking. "We can force her. Make her sign over. She has lawyers. Protection. You think I'm stupid?" Vincent leaned forward. "You came to me with a deal. Borrow money to buy her out. Buy her silence. But you lied about your assets. You lied about your position. That makes you a liability." Marcus stood up. "We can still fix this number." "You can't." Vincent nodded to the other 2 men. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign over the restaurants. All of them. As collateral. Then you're going to work for me. Until your debt is paid." "You can't." One of the men moved fast. Grabbed Marcus. Shoved him against the wall. Owen backed up. "Jesus, Vincent. We can talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about." Vincent pulled out a gun. "Set it on the desk. Sign the papers. Or I'll take the restaurants anyway. And you won't be around to complain." That's when Detective Martinez kicked open the door. "Police. Hands up. Now." Everything happened fast. Vincent reached for the gun. Martinez fired. Not at Vincent, at the ceiling. Warning shot. Plaster rained down. I said, "Hands up." The other officers rushed in, shouting. Chaos. Vincent's men were on the ground in seconds. Handcuffs snapping. Vincent himself stood slowly. Smiled. "Detective, this is a private business meeting. This is extortion and assault. You're under arrest." Vincent shrugged. "My lawyers will have me out in an hour. Maybe. But we've been watching you for 6 months. Loan sharking. Racketeering. Your operation's done." They took Vincent out. His men. The office emptied. Just Marcus and Owen left. And me. I stepped into the room. Marcus saw me. His face went pale. "Mom, don't." I walked past him. Looked at the papers on the desk. The contract Vincent had brought. Signing over the restaurants. You were actually going to do it. Give everything to a criminal. He was going to kill us. Because you borrowed money you couldn't pay back. Because you stole and lied and gambled. Marcus's face twisted. "This is your fault. You turned Dad against us. You poisoned him." "I did nothing. You did this. Both of you." Owen was crying again. Full sobs now. "I didn't want any of this. I just wanted him to love me. To be proud. So you sold drugs?" I turned on him. "You used your father's restaurants to launder cartel money? That's how you wanted to make him proud?" "I was sick. I needed help. You had help. 3 rehabs. And you walked out every time." My voice was rising. Years of silence breaking. "You had everything. Every advantage. Every opportunity. And you threw it away. Both of you." Marcus found his anger. "You don't understand. Pressure. Expectations. Dad built an empire. He wanted us to be like him. To be perfect. He wanted you to be honest." I said, "That's all. Honest and decent. But you couldn't even manage that." "And what about you?" Marcus shot back. "You were just his secretary. His helper. You didn't build anything. You were just there." The words hit like a slap. But they didn't hurt the way he wanted. "You're right," I said quietly. "I was just there, keeping books, smoothing conflicts, making impossible things work, while you two learned to Lie and steal and betray. I stepped closer. But I'm not just there anymore. I own this company. I own the restaurants. I own everything your father built. And I'm taking it all back. You can't run these businesses. Marcus said. You don't know how. Watch me. Detective Martinez came back in. Mrs. Hartwell, we need statements. Of course. I looked at my sons. You're both fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Robert will be in touch about repayment, schedules and legal proceedings. Mom, please. Owen reached for me. I stepped back. I'm not your mom right now. I'm the CEO of Hartwell Construction and Hartwell Restaurant Group, and you're trespassing. Security arrived. 2 large men. They took Marcus and Owen by the arms. Marcus was still yelling as they dragged him out. You'll regret this. You can't do this alone. You need us. The door closed. His voice faded. I stood in the empty office. David's office, once. Then Marcus's. Now mine. I sat in the chair. It was too big. The desk was covered with Marcus's files, his schemes, his mistakes. Robert appeared in the doorway. Eleanor? I'm fine. You're shaking. I looked at my hands. He was right. That was my son. I said. Marcus. I taught him to read. I made his lunches. I went to every game. Every recital. And he just threatened me. Robert came in. Sat across from me. People in power do terrible things. When they're losing it. He called me a secretary. He was trying to hurt you. He succeeded. I took a breath. What happens now? Now we clean house. The police are raiding 3 restaurants tonight. The ones Owen used for money laundering. They'll arrest the managers involved. Seize records. Build cases against the cartel connections. And Owen? He'll cooperate. Or he'll go to prison. His choice. And Marcus? He'll pay back every cent. Even if it takes years. We've frozen his accounts. His credit. He can't run. Can't hide. Robert leaned forward. Eleanor, this is going to get ugly. There will be media. Investigations. Your family will be in the news. Are you ready for that? I thought about it. About strangers knowing our secrets. About headlines. About shame. Then I thought about David. About his video. His letter. His faith in me. Yes, I said. I'm ready. We worked through the night. Police came and went. Files were boxed. Evidence catalogued. By 3 a.m., we had warrants for 15 people connected to the cartel operation. At 4 a.m., I went to the first restaurant, Golden Harvest, in Capitol Hill. Police were already there. Officers in raid jackets. Customers evacuated. Staff lined up outside. I walked past them. Went inside. The manager, Kevin Harrison, was in handcuffs. He saw me. His face went hard. You don't know what you're doing. He said. These people don't forgive. You just made yourself a target. Good, I said. Let them come. Detective Martinez pulled me aside. We found the drugs. Kitchen. False wall. 50 pounds of cocaine. Street value around $2 million. In my restaurant. Your son's restaurant. But yes. I felt sick. How long has this been going on? At least 2 years. Maybe longer. 2 years. While I was home making dinner. While David was dying. While my son was turning our family business into a drug operation. I want to see the kitchen. I said. Martinez nodded. Led me through. Past the dining room. Past the stoves. To a storage area. The false wall was already torn open. Bricks of white powder stacked inside. Evidence tags. Cameras flashing. This was what my family had become. I turned away. Walked back through the restaurant. Outside into the cold air. Dawn was coming. Gray light over Seattle. The city waking up. Robert joined me on the sidewalk. 3 restaurants down. All clear. We found drugs in 2. Money in all 3. Your son kept detailed records. He's going to make this very easy for prosecutors. He was always organized, I said. Even as a kid. Everything labeled. Filed. In order. I laughed bitterly. I thought it was a good quality. It is. He just used it wrong. We stood there watching the sun rise. Robert, I said, David left me something. Project Legacy. Did you know about it? Yes. He worked on it for months. He wanted to rebuild everything. Make it sustainable. Ethical. He wanted to prove the businesses could succeed without corruption. Can they? I don't know. But he believed you could make it happen. I thought about that. About David's faith. About the empire he'd built. About the mess our sons had made. Then that's what we'll do. I said. We'll tear it all down. And build it right. Robert smiled slightly. When do we start? Now. We went back to the office. Spent the next week in constant motion. Police interviews. Court appearances. Media statements. I hired new managers. Fired corrupt staff. Restructured finances. Brought in auditors. Marcus was arrested 3 days later. Charged with embezzlement and fraud. His bail was set at $500,000. He couldn't make it. He sat in jail. Owen checked into rehab. Real rehab this time. Court ordered 90 days minimum. Then witness protection while he testified against the cartel. Vanessa filed for divorce. Took what she could. Disappeared. And I worked 14 hours a day. Learning the businesses. Meeting with foremen and chefs and accountants. Making decisions. Fixing what was broken. People underestimated me. Called me the widow. The old lady. Until they saw me work. Until they realized I remembered every detail. Every number. Every name. Until they understood I wasn't going anywhere. 1 month in, I stood on a construction site. One of our projects. 40-story building downtown. Marcus had nearly bankrupted it with his embezzling. The foreman Jorge Rodriguez approached me. Respectful but cautious. Mrs. Hartwell, I need to know. Are we finishing this building? Or should my crew look for other work? I looked at the structure. Steel and concrete rising into the sky. Half finished. Expensive. Risky. David's vision. We're finishing it, I said. And we're doing it right. On budget. On schedule. Can you make that happen? Jorge studied me. Then smiled. Yes, ma'am. We can. Then let's get to work. He turned back to his crew. Shouted orders. The site came alive again. Hammers. Drills. The sound of building. I stood there watching. This was what David wanted. Not the corruption. Not the shortcuts. The real thing. Hard work. Honest effort. Something to be proud of. I pulled out my phone. Opened David's video. Watched his tired face. His weak voice. Finish what I started. I will, I whispered. I promise. The sun was warm on my face. The city stretched out around me. Somewhere, my sons were facing consequences. Somewhere, justice was happening. But here, right now, I was building, and for the first time in 3 months, I felt something close to peace. 1 year later, I stood in a different kind of building. Not steel and concrete. Not glass and ambition. This was something softer. A community center in Ballard. Warm wood. Big windows. Comfortable chairs arranged in circles. The sign outside read, Hartwell. Foundation for Senior Dignity. It was mine. I'd built it with David's money. With the fortune he'd hidden. With the empire we'd saved. Inside, 17 women sat talking. ages 60 to 85. Some were escaping abusive families. Some had been financially exploited. Some were simply invisible, forgotten, cast aside by children who didn't want the burden. I knew their stories because they were my story too. Eleanor, my assistant, Patricia, the same woman from the bank, touched my arm. They're ready for you. I walked into the circle. The women looked up, smiled. These were faces I knew now. Sarah, whose daughter had stolen her Social Security. Maria, whose son had tried to commit her for her house. Jennifer, whose family had simply stopped calling. I sat down, took a breath. Good morning, I said. Good morning, Eleanor, they chorused back. This was our Wednesday group. Support, strategy, solidarity. We met every week. Sometimes we cried. Sometimes we laughed. Always, we reminded each other we were not disposable. I want to talk about power today, I said. Not the kind men think of. Not money or control. The power of knowing your own worth. I told them about David's envelope. About the moment I realized my sons had tried to erase me. About the choice I'd made. People will underestimate you, I said. They'll call you old, confused, past your prime. They'll speak over you, decide for you, act like you're already gone. I looked around the circle. But you're not gone. You're right here, and you have more strength than they'll ever understand. Sarah raised her hand. How do you keep going when your own children betray you? It was the question I'd asked myself 1,000 times. You grieve, I said. You let yourself feel the loss. Because it is a loss. The children you loved don't exist anymore. Maybe they never did. Maybe you loved who you hoped they'd become. I paused. And then you build something new. For yourself. For others. You take the pain and make it mean something. Maria spoke up. Have you forgiven them? Your sons? I considered that. Forgiveness. Everyone wanted to know about forgiveness. I've made peace with what happened, I said carefully. But forgiveness isn't forgetting. It isn't pretending things are fine. It's accepting reality and choosing how to move forward. Do you see them? Jennifer asked. Sometimes. It was true. Marcus had been released 6 months ago. He'd paid back $1 million of the 3 he'd stolen. He was working construction now. Not as CEO. As a site manager. Earning his way back. Learning what real work meant. He called me once a month. Asked how I was. Told me about his progress. We didn't talk about the past. Not yet. Maybe never. But the calls were something. A thread. Fragile but real. Owen had finished rehab. He was clean. 10 months now. He worked at the foundation. 3 days a week. Talked to other addicts. Shared his story. Tried to help people avoid his mistakes. I saw him more often. Not as mother and son. Not exactly. But as 2 people who'd survived something terrible and were trying to rebuild. Last week, he'd brought me coffee. Sat in my office. Said, I'm sorry for everything. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I need you to know. I'd looked at him. At the man he was becoming. Thin. Tired. Honest in a way he'd never been before. I know, I'd said. Keep going. That was all. No tears. No embrace. Just acknowledgement. It was enough. Now, in the circle. I returned to the present. My sons are learning consequences. That's not the same as redemption. But it's a start. And whether they fully change or not, my life goes forward. Because it's my life, not theirs. The women nodded. They understood. Many of them had similar stories. Children who'd apologized, but not changed. Children who'd disappeared entirely. Children who'd never apologize at all. We talked for another hour. About legal strategies. About financial independence. About finding joy in the years we had left. When the session ended, I stayed behind, helped arrange chairs, swept floors. Patricia tried to stop me. "Eleanor, you don't have to do that. We have staff. I want to," I said. "It reminds me I'm still useful." She smiled, left me to it. I finished cleaning, locked up, drove home. Home. The word meant something different now. I'd kept the house. David's house. Our house. But I'd changed it. Repainted. New furniture. Cleared out closets full of the past. Made space for the present. Inside, I made tea. Sat at the kitchen table. The same table where I'd opened David's envelope 1 year ago. So much had changed. The businesses were stable, profitable, ethical. We'd implemented every idea, from David's project legacy, sustainable construction, farm-to-table restaurants, fair wages, transparent accounting. It was slower, harder, less profitable in the short term. But it worked, and I was proud of it. Genuinely proud. The foundation had helped over 500 women. Legal aid, financial counseling, housing assistance, job training. Every week, more women found us. Every week, we helped them remember they mattered. And I'd changed too. I wasn't David's wife anymore. I wasn't Marcus and Owen's mother. I wasn't anyone's assistant, or support system, or background presence. I was Eleanor Hartwell, CEO, founder, advocate, woman, 73 years old, and finally myself. My phone buzzed. Text from Robert. He'd become more than my attorney. He was a friend, maybe my closest friend. "Dinner this week? I found a new place in Fremont." I smiled. Texted back, "Thursday, 7 o'clock. Life was simple now. Smaller, but richer. More honest. I finished my tea, went upstairs, changed into comfortable clothes, came back down to David's office. I'd kept it mostly the same. His desk, his books, his files, but I'd added my own things too. Photos from the foundation, letters from women we'd helped, awards the businesses had, one for ethical practices. I opened his laptop, went to the video file, played it one more time. David's face, thin, tired, loving. "I believe in you. I always have." "I know," I said to the screen. "I finally know." I closed the laptop, looked around the office, at the life we'd built, at the mess we'd survived, at the future I was creating. There was a quote I'd found recently. I'd written it on a card and pinned it to the wall. "The best revenge is living well." I'd changed it slightly, added my own ending. "The best revenge is living well, and helping others do the same." That was my legacy now. Not money, not buildings, not some empire that would crumble or corrupt. People, women, voices that had been silenced, lives that had been dismissed. I was giving them what David had given me: tools, options, power, and it felt better than anything I'd ever done. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at Seattle, the city lights coming on, the water in the distance, the sky turning purple and gold. Somewhere out there, Marcus was working, learning, growing, maybe. Somewhere out there, Owen was staying clean, fighting, trying. Somewhere out there, women were waking up, realizing they didn't have to accept being erased, finding their strength, using it. And here, in this house, in this moment, I was at peace. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. There were still hard days. Still moments of grief. Still nights when I missed David. So much it hurt. But I'd survived. More than survived. I'd transformed. The woman in that attorney's office 1 year ago, the one who'd received an envelope and felt humiliated she was gone. In her place was someone I actually liked. Someone strong. Someone purposeful. Someone who'd learned that being underestimated was sometimes an advantage. I thought about all the women who'd feel invisible today, who'd be talked over, dismissed, treated like they didn't matter. I wanted to tell them you do matter. Your years don't diminish you. Your age doesn't erase you. You have power you haven't even discovered yet. And sometimes, the people who should love you will fail you, will betray you, will try to throw you away. But that's not the end of your story. It's the beginning. If you're brave enough to write a new chapter. I turned from the window, went back downstairs, made myself dinner. Simple, quiet, good. This was my life now. And I'd chosen every part of it. The envelope that had felt so heavy 1 year ago, I'd kept it. It sat in a drawer in the kitchen. Sometimes I took it out, ran my fingers over David's handwriting. It wasn't a document of betrayal anymore. It was an invitation to power, to purpose, to becoming myself. The sweetest revenge I'd learned wasn't destroying my sons. It was building something beautiful. In spite of what they'd done, it was proving that my value didn't depend on their recognition. It was living fully, freely, powerfully in the years I had left, and helping other women do the same. That was David's real gift. Not the money, the permission, the reminder that I'd always been strong. I'd just forgotten. Now I remembered. Every day, every moment, every choice. I was Eleanor Hartwell, 73 years old, CEO, founder, survivor, woman, and I was just getting started. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Never too late to demand respect. Never too late to become who you were always meant to be. If this story touched you, if you see yourself in these struggles, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe to Grandparents' Memories in Life. Give this video a like and turn on notifications. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not invisible, that they matter, that their story isn't over. We all deserve dignity at every age, in every circumstance. Never forget that, and never, ever let anyone make you disappear.